Welcome to Coastal Conversations, Episode 4. Colossians 4:6 reminds us, "Let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone." Well, since 2008, Lenise Ligon has been a trusted voice and a reliable source of information as she anchors the Fox 10 News every night. She also hosts her own podcast called Living It Up with Lenise. Lenise began her career as an entertainment host for WDIV in Metro Detroit, her hometown area. She has a passion for speaking at schools and volunteering with various organizations around our community. Lenise has always been recognized as an American Heart Association volunteer. She dedicates her time to educating the public on the importance of maintaining a heart-healthy diet. She also practices what she preaches. She lives a healthy lifestyle, as you will hear today. She loves to spend her time with her family, and she enjoys a very good movie. There is so much I could say about my friend Lenise, but I want you to hear from her. So please welcome to Coastal Conversations today, Lenise Ligon. Well, welcome to Coastal Conversations.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Thank you for being here today. I'm learning already so much from you. We just had a conversation about podcasting, and you have your own podcast that I talked about in the intro, Living It Up with Lenise. So you're giving me great advice, and I really appreciate that. Well, let's just jump right in here. Where did you grow up, and how did you find yourself as a nightly news anchor here in Mobile, Alabama?
Oh, wow. That's a long story. I'll
Right.
try to keep short because I've been told that I can be long-winded.
It's okay.
The reason I have a podcast now, because you have the time. I grew up in Detroit, Michigan. And first and foremost, thank you for having me on your podcast. I love the podcasting community, and I think it's just one more way that we can connect with other people in our community. Going back to my career as a journalist, wow. I didn't always know that that's what I wanted to do.
Okay.
I started out thinking that I was going to be a psychiatrist. So I was good at helping people and listening, and I loved that. But it was during a study abroad program in Mexico. I was living there for about 6 months, and midway through, it was determined that that probably wouldn't be the best profession for me.
Yeah.
And if I'm remembering what she said verbatim, you're going to be the one on the couch because you can't let things go.
Oh, okay.
And not everything is a story that has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah. And you needed that.
I need the closure. So
Right.
like movies that end on cliff notes or cliffhangers.
Right.
And they want you to think about how this plays out.
I'm going to need some boundaries here.
I don't like that.
Right.
So I came home
Yeah.
and spoke with my mom, and she took me to this, it's called Art Beats and Eats in Detroit, very popular art festival. And we saw one of the news anchors there for the ABC station, Diana Lewis, and I spoke with her shortly after meeting her there. And it was determined that I could probably tap into journalism. It's weird. She went to school for journalism. She went to Michigan State for journalism. So I just said, okay, I'm going to do what you do. Because I saw just how welcoming she was to the community and how so many people were just thanking her for helping them with the problem that they had. And at the end of the day, that's all I wanted to do.
We never know what one conversation will do, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why I tell everyone, be generous with your time and recognize that your one encounter with someone could change the course of their life.
That's right. That's right. Because he orders our steps.
Oh, yeah.
God orders our steps and our stops. And he orders those conversations to propel you into what you do today. That is so inspiring. So you ended up in journalism and you went to Michigan State University.
I did.
Right?
Go green. I love the green and the white.
Yeah,
Jennifer is repping
I am
Michigan
on it.
State here.
I'm on it. See, I pre-thought. And so you ended there, or you started there at Michigan State University. Journalism, Spanish minor, I believe.
Yes. So my major is in journalism, broadcasting specifically, and then a minor in Spanish. I love communicating at the heart of it.
Right.
And I just think what a beautiful world we live in with so many different cultures and languages and being able to speak that native language, you tap into a deeper part of the person than if you're just speaking a universal language, say English. If that's not your native language, there's something that's lost in translation.
I agree.
And growing up in Detroit, it was brilliant because it's like a melting pot of these different cultures. I tell people all the time, I had Chaldeans, Chinese, Indian, Hispanic, just every type of ethnicity and ethnic background you can think of represented there.
I know because I have proximity to you that your faith is very important to you. How did your relationship with Jesus and faith begin?
With my grandmother, with my grandmother.
I know that your mom is a very devoted follower of Christ. I see her here at church all the time, volunteering, and I think she modeled that for you very well. And that must be why is because your grandmother imparted that to her. It's a generational thing, I think.
It is
in your family.
I have to be very careful. I had such a great childhood.
Right.
My mother raised me as a single parent with the help of my grandmother. So the three of us were like three peas in a pod. And yes, my mother was very involved in church, but my introduction to church was through Ethel Edwards. I can remember being in Bible study with her, going to Sunday school with her, listening to her sing in the choir, and she sang soprano and had no business singing soprano. And they loved her because of her enthusiasm and love for Christ.
Yeah.
All of my church hymns, the favorite ones, I can still hear her butchering them in my ear.
Love it.
But it definitely began with her. I would go to church with my grandmother because she went to Friendship Missionary Baptist Church, and my mother went to Hartford Memorial.
Okay.
And there are two different churches. So one is closer towards the downtown area of Detroit, and the other is on the west side of Detroit, Outer Drive. And my mother would have me go to church with my grandmother, and then I would go with my mom. So I was in church Sunday all day. And
That's
I loved
awesome.
it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
And I think that's so important for grandparents to hear is that they can still have an influence on their grandkids. You know, and your mom obviously does that too. She's very close to your kids. And the influence that they can still have, their purpose in life is not over just because they're grandparents now or they're retired or whatever. They still can feed into the life of their grandkids. And then it's a ripple effect.
It is.
For
They're
generations, right? And that's so inspiring that you found your faith through her example. I love that. How do you see your role as a Christ follower in the public square? You do this really well because I think that you are so genuine when you share stories on Fox 10. And I know your faith behind all of that, and I know your lifestyle behind all that is one of integrity and faithfulness. When you have a story that you're sharing that is difficult, how do you see your role as a Christ follower in those situations? How do you balance that objectively as a news reporter?
Well, it's not easy.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I'm still human. And there are certain stories that are hurtful to read. And so every morning when I start my day and when I end my day, it is the same way.
Wow.
I start with a gratitude practice book, and I've been doing that probably for the past 10 years.
Gratitude practice. Okay.
Because I am practicing to be grateful in everything that I do. There's so much negativity that we are surrounded by, whether it's perceived because you're watching that on the news, it's in your environment. But if you focus on the positive, if you focus on what you're grateful for, that will attract more of that.
Yes.
So I start my day with 3 things that I'm grateful for. Today, I was grateful for the opportunity to give my daughter some advice. I knew that I had to after the day that she had at school yesterday. I was grateful for this opportunity to have a conversation with you. And then I just wrote simply because I woke up.
Yeah.
And I end my day the same way, just to help me purge all of what I've had to see
And hear.
and read and hear. And so I know that my role as a journalist, and I use the word journalist specifically because I don't see myself as a newscaster or a news anchor, or in the industry, they'll say talent. Not to put a lot of weight on it or because I'm taking myself so seriously, but I want to learn and I want to share with you what I've learned so that you in turn can be better, so that as a community as a whole, we can rise higher. So I take that role very seriously. So when it comes to objectivity, of course, integrity, absolutely. Because if I don't have those things, you're not going to listen.
Yes.
And then ultimately, I have no way of making an impact.
That's good. That's really good. And I think that you do that so genuinely. It comes across that way, that you care about the things that you report every evening to us. 4 hours, isn't it 4 hours? 4, 5, 9, and 10.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's a long. I mean, that's a long time to not only just. And the back is you have to go in and get those stories ready.
Oh, yes.
Learn everything you can quickly.
And you have to fact check.
And then fact check and deliver.
Yes.
That's a lot. It's just, yeah.
It is a lot. But again, each role, I can't imagine what you have to go through when you're preparing scrimmage, Jennifer. Oh.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. But at the end of the day, you know that it's for the greater good.
Well, I love how you do that.
Thank
I think that
you.
we need more journalists like you. And I'm not just saying that because you're my friend. Because I see you live it day in and day out. And it's not just who you are when those cameras come on. It is you purposely live it out in our community. You live in our community like you want others to live in our community. You set the example, and you've set the bar high, I think, in journalism in Mobile. You've received awards for that, but also just the recognition of your audience that love you. I love when you get online live on your Facebook Lives before you go live. I love those because it just shows your passion and that you care and that you're there for your audience. And then you can see that reciprocated in their comments. They love you. They love the funny things that you do on there and how you just bring that humanity to it. And so I just appreciate that about you.
Thank you for saying that.
Let's shift to the idea of balancing your family in this.
So this, I have to break out the notes.
Yeah, get your notes ready. You work non-traditional hours, right?
I don't think people know. So
Let's talk about those hours for a second before we get into this.
So let's see here. One of the things that Diana Lewis made me promise was that I would return the favor.
Okay.
So I didn't go into detail. I met her at this art festival, and my mother got her contact number. And she said, I spoke to her, and she said, you call her and you better do it. You're trying to figure it out. You seem to like what you see in her. Call her and ask her how she got there. I'm like, okay, yeah, Mom, thanks. But she gave me the look that moms can give, and so I did it. I know now that when I called her at 3:45, that's not a good time for someone who's going on the air at 5 o'clock. Now in Detroit, you have hair and makeup. Here, we don't have that.
You don't have hair and makeup.
No.
You do your own.
I do my own hair and makeup, which is why I often look a hot mess.
No.
And I have to explain that to people because they're always so surprised.
I am surprised at that.
Yes. And no one teaches you. There's no class. You kind of have to,
Oh, well, now you can Instagram it, the get readies with me.
I would never.
Right?
I
that
can't
is
say never.
serious makeup.
know.
Those girls can do some serious
No
makeup.
one, listen.
I cannot do that.
Listen, we're going to blur all of this here because this is like, no one needs to see this.
Brandon makes us look good.
Brandon's going to have reconstructive surgery on his hands and filter all day.
Not problem.
But yeah, she made, in talking to me, gosh, she spoke to me on the phone for well of 2 hours.
Wow.
She missed hair and makeup, and she was 5 minutes late to her newscast
Wow.
because she was talking to me on the phone.
Yeah, that's so rare. That's so good.
I did not know her. She did not know me, but she saw something, I guess, in my mom and heard something in my voice that made her want to donate the time. And she said, pay it forward. You make sure that you are a steward in your community. And so being a Christ follower, that's what I try to do. So getting back to your question, my hours are long because they don't just pertain to me being at the studio. 2 days ago, I was at the University of West Florida. I got there at 9 o'clock in the morning, and I was there until 1 in the afternoon speaking to aspiring journalist students. And then I had to make the drive from Pensacola to Mobile to get on set. So it depends on what volunteer speaking engagement or podcast recording session that I have when my day starts and ends. But in between that, my day to the station starts at around 1:30. And I get in and I hit the ground running. We have meetings with our producers. We have promos that we have to record. We review the scripts that are written. We have to update the scripts. Yesterday, there were 2 updates that we had to do. One, we had to call a certain network to make sure that they were correct in something that they were reporting. And there was a nuance. There was a slight adjustment that needed to be made.
Okay.
And after the newscasts are done, we always have debriefings to talk about what went wrong and what went right. So from 1:30 till about 11:30 is my work day.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So 11:30 in the evening, then you drive home.
Yes.
And then
then I'm usually up because you know how it is. You get
Right.
home from work, and what time does your day end?
Oh, well, my day ends at 9. I'm in bed by 9.
Okay.
I don't catch that end session of yours. we do the 4 and then we're good. Like we're like,
Well,
okay.
so, and my question specifically is when you have finished your workday and you're at home and you're in your wind down phase, you're eating dinner. How long does that take you from that time to bedtime?
Well, we are early dinner. We eat dinner around 5 every evening.
My family does too.
Yeah, because I like that. I like how I feel if I eat earlier.
Yes.
When I go to bed, So we eat early, and then we just we do, the homework routine or the, winding down, getting the house, laundry, folding, putting things away, getting things out, uniforms for the next day, getting lunches prepared for the next day, getting snacks prepared, all of that kind of thing. And then, going to bed. So, and then we're in bed by 9:30. We're early bedders.
So that's about 4 hours.
Yeah.
So I get home at 11:30.
But still, then you have to wind down.
So add 4 hours.
Wow.
I'm usually awake until about 2 a.m. And then I'm awake the next day at around 6:30 so I can take Phoenix to school. So I tell people all the time, if you're talking to me and I am like, you don't think I'm listening, I am.
Yeah, you're there.
But understand that for like the last 15 years, I operate on, 4 hours of sleep.
That is amazing. And because our kids go to the same school.
Yes.
I love to watch you at drop off because I can tell, here's what I can tell. You're from Detroit. Yeah. I can tell that how you drive.
The aggressive driving.
It's like 2 wheels coming in there, getting them there before your son drove. Yeah. I think he drives now.
He does.
Which is a whole nother thing we could talk about is your kids starting to drive because Evan started to drive in October and
they have the same vehicle.
Yes, they do. Life 360 becomes your lifeline in life. I just follow him everywhere.
So that's Dylan's
job.
No.
Okay.
He likes the Life 360. I don't.
Okay.
I call it stalking. Why are you stalking me?
I'm low-key stalking.
You know what he'll do? He'll text Sydney and he'll say, you're going kind of fast right now. I'm like, so are you texting him when he's driving?
Yeah. Is he supposed to read that?
Is he supposed? Yeah. What? And are you building trust by letting him know that you're watching?
Watching him. Oh, that's good parenting. That's good parenting advice. We could just pause that. That is good. That's something to think about. But I love how I love you at drop off. I always giggle at you because it's like, I can tell because you've done all this. Your day literally just ended a few hours ago. You're balancing being a good mom, a present mom by dropping her off at school because I don't know about you, but those morning drives are really special.
Yes.
Like the connection time that you get with your kids, it's just, I never wanted to rush that.
No.
Yeah.
And you know what Dylan did the other day? He read a statistic to me that by the time your child is 12, you'll have spent 70% of your time with them.
Wow.
12.
That's a lot.
70%.
That makes me sad.
It made me very sad.
Because you savor every moment.
Yes.
Right? And you're intentional about those moments.
And we all should be. I know that it's not easy, and I have a great example, and I tell her all the time, you set the bar so high because you were by yourself, and I have help. I have a community. My mother didn't have that.
Wow.
And she raised two girls, both who have careers and both who love the Lord.
Yeah, she's so strong. I wish everyone could know your mom.
And
She's
kind.
She's kind. She's wise. There's a depth about her. Yeah. And you don't even have to, she doesn't even have to open her mouth for you to feel the depth.
Oh, sure.
Right? She has a presence. Yeah. And I think that comes from, she knows who she is in Christ. She knows, and it comes from just living a life that was probably good, but not easy, and just having that depth about her. It shows. But you're so intentional with your family. I've seen you even in between newscasts catch a track meet, catch a soccer meet. Like you sometimes have to drive back and forth.
Yeah.
And balance that. It's impressive.
And I have to say thanks to all of the Bayside moms who are listening, for sending me pictures and videos because I can only be there for an hour and then I have to drive back. But they send me pictures and videos in case I missed anything. And I do my best to explain to Phoenix that mommy does have to work. Your dad is here and I'm going to be there for as much as I can. Yeah. But it is a balance. And what I would tell people is to set boundaries. I also have a podcast that I do with a girlfriend. It's called Anchored in Life. And we just talked about the art of balancing. And I think that the expectation that we put on ourselves is so much higher than the expectation of someone else putting on us. So your expectations of me won't even come close to the expectation I have for myself. And we have to be realistic about that. What can I really accomplish without watering it down? That's good. Set those boundaries and live by it and know that you're not superhuman. You're not going to be able to do everything, and that's okay. But whatever it is that you do decide to do it 100%.
That's really good advice. That leads me to a good question about developing rhythms that help you balance. And balance for everyone looks differently, I think. I like what you said is that we sometimes put unrealistic expectations on ourselves. And we're like, well, I have to balance this and it has to be equal time.
Right.
And equal time doesn't necessarily work.
No.
Right? It's the intentionality behind that time. But what are some rhythms and some boundaries that you've developed in your life that has helped you that maybe would help somebody else like develop those rhythms and boundaries so that their life can be a little bit more intentionally balanced?
So I am consistently consistent.
That's good. I like that.
I am. It doesn't make me for a very exciting person. My day starts roughly the same every day. And if it doesn't, the people who know me know, oh, she didn't run today. Oh, she did not meditate today.
Yeah.
Did she do her yoga? Probably not. So I wake up, I take Phoenix to school. So essentially what I'm talking about is a routine, not so
Okay.
much a rhythm, but a routine. I need a schedule. I like that. That helps me to know where I'm supposed to be and the amount of time that I'm supposed to be in that space so that I can be present.
Have you always been a good person to schedule your life, or
Yes.
did you have to learn that?
No, I love a good schedule.
Okay.
And I think it came from journaling. I've been journaling since I was 8,
Wow.
and having that time to journal, I think is where it began, and looking forward to that being on my schedule every day. So it is meditation, quiet time. Meditating and quiet are two different things for me.
Okay.
And then running, journaling, and I love to cook. And those are the things that I find great joy in. And it helps to keep me balanced.
I like that. You're a really good cook.
Yeah, and people are surprised because I've been vegetarian, plant-based for 11 years now. So that was a process. When my grandmother died from heart disease, I made a conscious decision to change my diet. So I eliminated red meat and pork. But then it gradually shifted. So then I slowly eliminated poultry. And then a year or two after I moved here, I eliminated seafood, which what in the world?
You know, I don't like seafood.
Well, come on. And people ask me, what do you miss? And I'm like, Gulf Coast shrimp. Why did I decide? But
If people follow you on Instagram or any social media, you often share some of those recipes and
yes,
all of that. And I
and
can
cook
tell
the
that
meat
you
in
like,
our family.
you cook the meat, you just don't eat the meat.
I
So your
don't.
family is not.
It depends on the day.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I'll say no. No, they're not. Dylan is very much a carnivore.
He likes meat. And
He wants the protein. And I have not convinced him that there are so many other ways you can get protein.
but he hasn't listened to that. Your influence is broad and it's prominent. Do you see a sense of purpose in all of that? Do you see a kind of a setup from God in that for such a time as this, He's given you this platform to do what you do? Do you sense that purpose in that? And if so, like, how does that make you? How do you feel about that?
Oh, gosh. Very fortunate, very blessed. Not everyone has an opportunity to be in the room and ask the question and then get the answer and be able to share it with others. That's empowerment.
Yes.
I recognize that I am walking in my purpose, but I think that changes every day. I think that we're constantly growing, but I'm prayerful. I just said a prayer yesterday, and if it's really something that's weighing heavy on my heart, I share that prayer with others.
Okay.
Because I can't be the only one feeling that way.
Yes.
And I want you to join me in prayer.
Agreement.
So that, if it's something on your heart, we can collectively pray for
Right.
it.
There's power.
Yes.
Power. Go ahead. You go. You preach it better than I can. There's power in agreement.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's good. Well, I know one of your purposes, and you mentioned this, we mentioned this earlier, but I really want to kind of circle back to it, is your volunteering with the American Heart Association. Because I think you see one of your passions and purpose of your platform is helping and promote a healthy heart lifestyle through the American Heart Association. You've been awarded volunteer awards with that organization in the past. You're very passionate about it. You wear red in heart what is it, February?
For the month of February, yeah.
Is that hard to do?
It was.
Have you collected red dresses
Yes.
throughout the years? Okay.
So in the beginning it was hard, but now no.
But talk a little bit about that passion and where that all started and the purpose behind that. Yeah.
My grandmother, much of who I am is because of my mother and my grandmother. I owe them and God all the glory. I really do. My grandmother died young. She did, and it always gets me, which is why I don't like to do things on video. And it's a sadness because she's not here.
Yes.
It's a sadness because she was such a beautiful person. You have never seen a person who loved the Lord and who did so much. So I try to live up to that.
You do.
I try hard.
I'm sorry.
And I hope that she's proud of me. We all have a story. And collectively, when we share that information, we learn. And when you know better, you do better. And if she knew the amount of pressure and stress that her body was taking on because of all of the volunteering that she did, because of all of the people that she helped. She was a nurse, and so she would donate her services at the nursing home at her church. And if she knew the importance of meditation, the importance of taking a deep breath and relaxing to calm your heart so that there's no tension or stress, she would probably be here today and a blessing to someone else. But she was so involved and so dedicated to that, and in combination with having diabetes and high blood pressure and several strokes and multiple heart attacks, and it took a toll. Yeah. And so she died. And I was there with her when she did. And one of the things she told me was to promise to be better. Wow. Do better with what you can. And so I take promises when I make them very seriously. When Diana Lewis told me to be a steward of my community, I'm going to do that. When my grandmother told me, make sure people are taking their health seriously, I'm going to do that. I'm not just going to say it. I'm going to change my diet. I'm going to make sure that I exercise. I'm going to make sure that I am sharing with you what I know so you can do it too.
And that's a very spiritual thing, Lenise. The Bible says our bodies are a temple of the Holy Spirit. And many times that we feed our spirits and our soul, but we forget that we're 3-part beings. Yeah. We're body, soul, and spirit. God gave us a body. We cannot fulfill the purpose that he gave for us in this life, truly, if we do not take care of our temples, our bodies. And you are an inspiration through that to others. I think you make her so proud how you take care of your temple and your body.
Thank you.
Because you do well. You do that very well. And it's a little convicting.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie when I see all the things you do. But I think that's so powerful. And that you were there with her and had that precious moment with her, and then you kept that promise.
It took a while to come out of the anger and hurt. When you lose someone who's so close to you, and when you saw how well they were in their faith, you question.
Yep.
You do question. And it took a while for me to come out of that hurt.
Yeah.
But he's always there.
Yep.
Whether you're ready or not, he's there.
Right. And he's big enough to handle those questions.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean that your faith is destroyed.
No.
And where else to go with your questions?
Right.
But to somebody that's a good father that's going to answer those questions for you in a loving, caring, non-judgmental, I get it, I understand, that's really good. I love it. So in closing, thank you so much for your time. I don't want to use up all your limited time that we learned about today. Do you have anything in your notes that you haven't shared?
I don't think so. No.
Okay, I have one quick fun question for you.
Okay.
I forgot to ask our last guest, Paige, about this. So people were like, you didn't ask her the fun question at the end. So I'm going to ask you. What is one of your favorite things you think everyone should know about? Now, this can be a book, a podcast, a TV show, a food, a restaurant, absolutely anything that you think this needs to be on your radar.
Oh, on the radar?
Or like bucket list or something.
Bucket list. So I am a thrill seeker. I love spicy foods. I guess if you are wanting to know a tidbit about me and something that I think you should do, I think you should go coasteering. And that is basically when you are near a body of water and caves. So I did this in Wales, and I had to work my way around the Welsh coast. And in doing so, you have to jump into the freezing water and claw with rocks. And I have bruises on my legs to this day from that. But you learn about yourself.
I bet.
In the many times that your life flashes before you, you realize, are you a fight, flight, or freeze person?
Wow.
Yeah. So I would recommend.
I bet you're a fight.
I am. I would recommend getting out of your comfort zone, doing something that challenges you in such a way that you find out something new about yourself, because life can sometimes make you complacent before you know it. You get stuck in a rut or these rhythms or routines that we need just for structure. But if you take a step back and examine this life that we have, this one opportunity to make a difference here, how are you able to do that if you're not challenging yourself?
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking time to be with me today, Lenise, on Coastal Conversation. This was so life-giving.
Thank you.
And I appreciate your vulnerability. I appreciate your openness to share a little bit of your story.
You get me talking about my mom and my grandmother, and you're going to, every time.
And I forgot to tell you there's tissues right behind that chair, but I didn't want to interrupt the moment.
Yeah, well.
Too late.
I don't need any tissues.
Right. Well,
I'll use my sleeve.
I really, really appreciate you being here today and taking your time to invest in this podcast and the people that listen. I know that it's going to make a difference. I know your life makes a difference. You use your platform not for selfish purposes, but to not only glorify God, but to carry on the legacy that's been implanted in you. And what a legacy. What a life. And now you're implanting that in your children. And I see so much of you in little Phoenix.
Oh, Phoenix.
She's beautiful. She is a little Lenise to me. Like I just see so much of, and so that legacy has made a ripple effect and it hasn't stopped. And that's because of you. That's because you didn't allow it to stop. And I just want to encourage you and just say thank you for being a trusted voice in our community that we can look to and say, I can trust the person behind what she's telling me every day. And we appreciate that.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this week's Coastal Conversations podcast. All of today's references will be found in the show notes. Also, if you enjoyed listening, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. We'll see you at Coastal this Sunday as we pick the conversation up from here.